Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into one of the biggest and, honestly, most overlooked threats to our data, cryptographic failures. Now that sounds super technical, I know, but trust me, what it means for you and your personal information is very, very real. So let's just get right into it.
Okay, let's kick things off with a number that should really make you sit up and pay attention. According to the Open Web Application Security Project, you'll hear them called OWASP, a mind-blowing 67% of the applications they tested had some form of cryptographic failure. This isn't some rare exotic bug. It's hiding in plain sight, probably in the apps you use every single day. So what is a cryptographic failure? Well, put simply, it's when the digital locks meant to keep your data safe aren't used the right way. See, the issue usually isn't that the encryption itself is broken, it's that it's been implemented badly. Think about it like this. You could have the strongest, most expensive padlock in the world, but if you put it on a flimsy cardboard box, well, the lock isn't the problem, is it?
And this problem is so serious that it's been climbing the charts. On the OWASP Top 10 list of security risks, it jumped from number 3 in 2017 all the way up to number 2 in 2021. But look closer, the name changed too. It went from the generic-sounding sensitive data exposure to the much more specific cryptographic failures. And that shift tells you everything. It focuses on the why, not just that data got out, but that the very systems built to protect it were the point of failure.
This really brings us to a huge security blind spot. We all hear the word encrypted, and we just breathe a sigh of relief. We think our data is safe. But as we're about to see, that's a pretty dangerous assumption to make.
And what's on the line here? Well, it's pretty much everything sensitive about us. We're talking about your passwords, your credit card numbers, your private health records, and all that personal identifiable information, or PII, the data that makes you, you. For a company, it could be their deepest trade secrets. This is the kind of stuff that once it's out there, you can't just get it back.
So how in the world do these digital locks actually end up breaking? Let's take a look at some of the most common ways these supposedly secure systems fall apart.
A really common failure is just using old, outdated tools. For instance, you might find a system that's still using an algorithm called MD5 to protect passwords. That thing is ancient, it's completely broken, it's the digital version of a lock made of glass. What they should be using is a modern, strong standard like bcrypt. Now, to a developer, the code might look kind of similar, but the difference is night and day. It's the difference between a password that can be cracked in seconds and one that's actually secure.
But the problem is so much bigger than just one weak algorithm. Failures can happen all over the place. Sometimes the encryption keys, the things you need to unlock the data, are stored right out in the open. I've seen them hard-coded right into the application where any attacker could find them. Or maybe data isn't encrypted while it's flying across the internet. Or it's just sitting in a database in plain text, totally unprotected. Any single one of these weak links can bring the whole system crashing down.
To really understand just how devastating these failures can be, we need to look at one of the most infamous data breaches of all time, the 2017 Equifax breach. This is where all the theory crashes into a real-world catastrophe.
So let's just walk through the timeline of this disaster. In March of 2017, a huge vulnerability was discovered in a really common piece of web software. A patch was released, but Equifax, they just didn't apply it. By May, attackers were already inside their network. And here's the truly critical part. They were able to wander around inside for months, finding and stealing data before Equifax even realized what was happening and finally disclosed the breach in September. That's a massive window of opportunity.
And the scale of the damage, it's just hard to wrap your head around it. The private, sensitive, personal data of 147 million people was stolen. We're talking names, birth dates, addresses, and for almost all of them, their social security numbers.
The financial hit to the company was just as jaw-dropping. We're talking over $1.4 billion in fines, legal fees, and just cleaning up the mess. It's proof that ignoring these best practices isn't just a technical problem, it's a colossal business risk.
So what was the final verdict? Well, an official report on the breach said it all. While a simple, unpatched vulnerability was what let the attackers get in the front door, it was the cryptographic failures inside that allowed them to walk away with the crown jewels. So let's break down exactly what went wrong. Once the attackers were in, they found social security numbers just sitting there, in plain text, no encryption at all. Data was being moved around inside the company through weak, insecure channels. The keys to the small amount of encryption that they did have weren't protected. It was a complete domino effect of failures that turned one single entry point into a historic disaster.
Okay, so how do we stop this from happening over and over again? The hard lessons learned from Equifax actually give us a really clear blueprint for how to build a digital fortress the right way. There is a path forward here.
Look, prevention has to start with using the right tools for the right job. It's that simple. For encrypting data, that means modern standards like AES 256. For locking down passwords, it means using tough, slow algorithms like Argon2 or bcrypt that are designed to resist attack. And it absolutely 100% means that old, broken algorithms like MD5 or SHA-1 have no business being anywhere near your sensitive data.
So if we build on that, prevention really comes down to three fundamental pillars. Number one, secure your data when it's moving across the internet. Use modern HTTPS everywhere, no excuses. 2, secure your data when it's just sitting there. Encrypt all that sensitive personal info in your databases. And 3, and this is the one people always forget, manage your encryption keys like they're gold. Use a dedicated system, a digital vault for your keys. Never, ever, ever just leave them lying around in your code for an attacker to stumble upon.
So, if you only take one single thing away from this whole explainer, let it be this. It is not enough to just check a box that says, "We use encryption." How it's done, the implementation, is everything. Doing it wrong is often just as bad as doing nothing, mainly because it gives everyone a false sense of security.
And that leaves us with one last question to chew on. Every single day, your most private information is protected by countless digital locks across hundreds of different services. But after all this, you have to ask yourself, do you have any idea who's holding the keys? And maybe, more importantly, are you sure they're using them correctly?